On January 9th, 2023, we moved to Spain on a non-lucrative visa. Getting the visa in your home country is the hardest part, the longest process, but it's not over until you've arrived in Spain.
Once you actually arrive in Spain, there's a few more very specific pieces of paperwork you have to file to get your TIE card. That's your Tarjeta, Identidad de Extranjero.
Your foreigner's identity card. In this video, we'll share our experience getting the TIE, including how we made an appointment, getting all of our paperwork for the TIE,
how much it costs, how long it takes to get your TIE, and both of our individual experiences in our TIE appointment at the local police station. I'm Sean.
And I'm Lainey, and this is Days We Spend.
What is the TIE and why do you need it? So the first question you might have is, why do you need a TIE? You've got your NIE number and your visa. Why do you need anything else? The answer is, the visa is not your residency.
The visa in your passport essentially gives you permission to apply for residency in Spain. You are allowed to come here on a multi-entry visa, but you are not legally allowed to stay past 90 days unless you complete your TIE.
It's like those credit card offers you get where you're pre-approved. You don't have a credit card yet, but you have the right to get one. The TIE is actually like you are now legally allowed to stay in Spain for the entire year on your visa.
There's always some confusion between the NIE and the TIE. And the NIE is essentially the number that's your identity, but it doesn't grant you anything. It's just give you that permission to get your TIE, which is the actual card, which has a year-long expiration date. How to make a TIE appointment in Spain. Do this ASAP.
To get your TIE, you have to apply in person with the right paperwork at your local Extranjero office, which in our case and in most cases is a very specific local police station.
When we picked up our NLV from the Los Angeles consulate, they told us to make sure we got our appointment as soon as possible because oftentimes it's really hard to get an appointment. So the consulate even gave us a slip of paper explaining exactly how to get that appointment, which included a link to the website, the Sede Electrónica.
So here's a step-by-step process of how to actually get your appointment on the Sede Electrónica site. And this is a quick tip. Don't Google Translate the website if that's a tool that you use, because it might give you some different wording.
Click the Acceder al Procedimiento button. On the next screen, select your province from the drop-down list. For us, that was Orense. Click Aceptar. Next, you'll need to select your appointment type. For the TIE, select Toma de Huellas, Expedición de Tarjeta y Renovación de Tarjeta de Larga Duración. This means taking of fingerprints, expediting the card, and renewal of a long-duration card. Click Aceptar. We selected this one because we are taking of fingerprints at our appointment. You'll see a list of documents you'll need to bring to your appointment. Take a screenshot and copy and paste this, and click all the links. You won't see this again. This is the one time you can use Google Translate. Make sure you translate back after you've got the information. Click Entrar. Fill out the form with your NIE number. This is on the visa in your passport and should begin with a letter. And then fill out your nombre y apellidos exactly as printed in your visa and your country of citizenship. Next, select the specific location and office, and then fill out your email and contact info.
The last thing you're going to do is select the date and time of your appointment. When we did it, we had 3 options, and we ended up actually having appointments on different days. So if you're applying with a partner or a family, that might be difficult to try to get all your slots together, but you work with what you get.
The process is pretty frustrating because Sede Electrónica website is kind of hit or miss. Like some days it's just
not good.
It was just down. Like there was just blank. Nothing showed up. So just keep at it every day. Just keep trying and get that appointment.
You probably don't want to get your appointment the first week you arrive because there are a few things that you're going to need to do. We'll talk about that in a second. Try to put it on the end of your 30-day window.
I was checking the appointment availability almost every day until we found the 2 that worked for us. We really needed an appointment that was as far out in the future of those 30 days of arrival as possible. And then once you have your appointment confirmation, you'll screenshot that and you'll also get an email confirmation. Just in case, print 2 copies of each of them.
Just make a t-shirt out of it, wear it to your appointment. No, just make sure you have all the information. What if I can't get a TIE appointment within my first 30 days? So this is a really scary question, and I understand why a lot of people are freaked out about this, especially if you're applying for your TIE in a really crowded place like Madrid or Barcelona. Officially, you have to make your appointment within the first 30 days of arrival. That's what the rules all say. Unofficially, as long as the date of you applying for your appointment is in that first 30 days, it's okay if your appointment is outside of that window. They understand that things get backed up.
At least that's what we've heard from multiple sources. So
Several people, yeah.
if that doesn't work for you, please don't quote us. So now that you've got your appointment, hooray! Paperwork comes next. What paperwork do you need for the Spanish TIE? Step 1, get your apartment and your Empadronamiento.
In order to get your TIE, you need a permanent address in Spain. That means that you need to find an apartment or a house, and you need to sign a lease for the duration of the time that you want to stay there, so at least 1 year. We have a whole video about our apartment search. It was a whole thing. But regardless, once you get that apartment, you then need to take your lease and go register with the local government to get your Empadronamiento, which is essentially like registering for the local census. It's important to really clearly state this, that you cannot use a long-term rental like an Airbnb or one of those other services to get your Empadronamiento, because each address in Spain can only be registered to one person for the census. That's why you need your own lease.
Once we signed the lease for our apartment, which was right before our appointment,
So we're about to go sign the contract for our apartment.
we walked that signed lease over to the local consejo and we walked in and said, okay, let's wait in line and get the Empadronamiento. Because in Galicia, in our city, we did not need an appointment to get that paperwork. We just needed to wait in line.
We're in front of the Consejo de Orense, and we just signed our rental contract, and we came over to see if we could get a padrón, and we waited in line for like 2 minutes. That was the most pleasant bureaucratic experience I've ever had. The guy at the local government office was honestly one of the coolest guys I've ever seen. We walked in, the form looked a little intimidating, so we just kind of wanted to get a little information, and he found out what we were doing and just basically took our passports, took the form, told us to wait, and just filled it out for us, asking us, 1 or 2 questions. And then he processed it, gave us 3 copies. There was actually an issue with the address being registered to our landlord's daughter. Again, you can only have one person or one family registered on each address. Had we run into that on our own, we wouldn't know why our thing wasn't being accepted. Luckily, literally, he did it right in front of us, and he's explaining like, oh, someone's already registered. Do you want me to call them? And we're like, yeah, sure. So he called from the office, called our landlord and said, hey, I'm going to take your daughter off the address. She said, okay.
You can apply for your Empadronamiento online. It's like a form you fill out and then send in, and then you have to wait for a week probably to get the papers back sent to you. We did not want to do this option because we didn't have the time. We needed to get those papers. So we heard if you go into the office and fill out the forms yourself, then you can get them usually within 3 days. But we were just so lucky that the guy gave them to us the day of.
Try to do it in person if you can. That's the moral of the story. If that's a problem, you have other options. Famous last words. I think that's the end of our TIE paperwork for this year until we decide to renew. Cut to footage of us doing a bunch more Spanish paperwork.
Step 2, other TIE paperwork. Check your local requirements because every region is different. In addition to the Empadronamiento, these were the papers that we prepared for our appointment. We had application form EX17, completed and signed in duplicate, 2 copies. This is really similar to the EX01 that you have to fill out for the NLV application, so don't sweat that too hard. If you need help, literally go on Google and search for how to fill out the EX17. There's a lot of really great examples out there.
You need the original and copies of your passport. You're going to need photocopies of your photo page, your identity page, the NLV, you need a photocopy of that, and you need a photocopy of your entry stamp when you arrived in Spain. The 3 different photocopies in color that you will need for your TIE appointment. We got this done at a photocopia place. The photocopies only cost us about €5, so pretty easy to do.
You need a recent color photograph for a passport, but it needs to be an EU size. You can't get these done in the US.
They're a little smaller. They're like slightly different size. You need them done when you land.
So again, on Google, you're going to search for Photos Carnet, and that's going to show you where you can get those photographs done. Or Photos Pasaportes too. You can also search for that. Those cost us €10 total.
€5 each.
She gave us 6 photos each, which we didn't need, but we weren't sure. I think that was just a standard thing.
I made puppets out of mine. Put them on my... We've seen on a few lists for the TIE that you need something called a Carta de Resolución. We followed some instructions and got one, but they didn't need it at our appointment. So I guess you can track that down if you want, but we didn't actually need it.
Essentially, it was just a website where we put our
NIE.
Put our NIE number into the system, and it just generated a form that said, yeah, you've been pre-approved for the TIE card.
Which you already have all your paperwork, so I think it's a little redundant. If your local office needs it, obviously, that's how you get it.
The last thing you're going to need is proof of payment, which is, again, a very complicated form, very similar to when you did your NLV. And this is the Model 790 Code 012. You have to fill out the whole thing online. When you print it, it gives you 4 pages, the last one being a trash page you don't really need. But there's 3 pages that look almost the same, and you need to bring those pages to a bank before your appointment to pay ahead of time at the bank. You have to check the cash option that you're going to pay.
We didn't have a Spanish bank account when we did this process. So we went to a bank, and there are hours where like non-bank customers can process payments like this, or there are like certain banks that'll do this all the time. Find one in your area. They know exactly what you're doing. This form is very clear for bankers. So they will stamp it a bunch of times, take their copy, give you a copy, and then you just submit that when you put your TIE in. It was very simple once we figured out how to go to the bank.
Yeah, essentially that paper turns into a receipt, and they stamp it and put all sorts of official stuff on there that says you paid for your form. And that cost us €32 total.
Yeah, it was 18 each in total for our TIE, for our photocopies, photos, and the processing fee. It was just under €50 for both of us. So a pretty affordable end to your TIE paperwork process.
Our TIE appointment experience. Here we go to our appointment for the TIE. We're going to get fingerprinted, hopefully. Well, I mean, Sean's appointment is today. Mine is supposed to be tomorrow. We're going to try to see if they'll take us both at the same time. If not, we'll go back tomorrow for my appointment. We got all of our papers. We got everything ready. We got this.
So I just got back from my TIE fingerprinting appointment at the police station. I showed up at 9:30 in the morning. It was a lot busier and more official than I expected. I did check in with the policewoman who had a clipboard with my name on it. Lainey has a different appointment date, so we couldn't even go in together.
So Sean's inside at his appointment, and they wouldn't take us both at the same time. Kind of scary and imposing. So I'll be back tomorrow for my appointment.
I brought this big, huge stack of every piece of paperwork I can imagine, but the process was a lot more streamlined than that. Basically, I sat down in front of a woman. I gave her my passport. I slid over all the documents I thought were relevant. She very quickly picked 3 documents out of the pile, scanned my passport, and just kind of went to work typing in the information. I mostly just sat there and answered, 2 or 3 questions. Is this phone number Spanish? Yes. And then that was it. I did a fingerprint of my right pointer finger, my left pointer finger, and then she gave me a temporary document that says I can come back in 4 to 6 weeks to pick up my actual card. All in all, the process took like 10 minutes from the time I checked in to when I left, so very efficient, but also very official. So it's the next morning. It's about 8:30 a.m. and we're walking to the police department for my TIE appointment to get my fingerprints done. And there was no way I could have snuck in and done it at the same time as Sean. Got Sean with me as my translator since his Spanish is better / because my hearing is so bad. So hopefully they'll let him in with me. All done! Yay! We were in this big police building here
and it really felt so official. Sean was able to come in with me because I wear hearing aids, but that's really the only reason. But I got really lucky that the lady who processed my papers wasn't wearing a mask, and she was very slow and patient with me, so I actually was able to understand everything. Either way, her questions that were in Spanish were very simple, if you know, like left and right, you know, your fingerprints that you're doing.
She's like, is this your phone number? Is this your Spanish phone number? Real basic stuff. You
Very
did it.
easy.
You did
Yeah.
it. You did it. You did it.
We're
you did it.
done, and now we just wait for our cards to come back, and then we'll have cards, and then we'll be officially able to be here.
Also, just a side note, this is the most intimidating building I've ever seen in my entire life.
It really is.
That was just a weird way to start the process.
When we left our appointment, we were given a letter saying that we were legal residents and we were just waiting for our TIE cards. We needed to keep that paper. It was really important. They said, bring it back when you pick up your card. We were told to expect a phone call in about 6 weeks to pick up our cards.
Picking up our TIE cards.
We just got the call that our cards are ready to pick up. 5 weeks after our appointment, so tomorrow we go and grab our ID cards.
So we're official. We have our cards.
Picking up your TIE card is very easy, but it's really important. Don't miss the phone call from your local government office.
I picked up my phone call.
I actually picked up your phone call.
But Sean did pick up my phone call.
I missed my phone call. I didn't have like the buzzer on or whatever, and it didn't go to voicemail. They didn't leave a voicemail. They didn't leave a number to call back.
Since I picked up my phone, I was able to go and pick up my card, and then I convinced them to let Sean pick it up as well because our appointments were around the same time, so the cards are like in the same filing system, and Galicia people are really nice. And I just said, you know, oh, he didn't pick up his phone. Please, please. I said it in Spanish.
So we're officially residents of Spain with our TIE cards, living in Orense, Galicia. Thank you so much for watching. We know the TIE process can be confusing, it can be scary, it can feel like there's a lot of pressure because you have to do it quickly. Hopefully this helped. I know everyone's experience is a little different, so please reach out in the comments if you have any questions about getting your TIE. We'll be happy to help as much as we can.
And just remember, you can do a lot of research before you get to Spain on these topics and prepare yourself as much as you can. But the reality is a lot of this, you just have to do it once you arrive. So that first month will be pretty stressful, but you can do it.
You can do it. You can do it. Yeah. The website doesn't load, refresh it. When your form doesn't go through, submit it again.
Try tomorrow.
So thanks so much for spending your day with us. Subscribe right now. Button. Do it. Push button. Push it. Button. Not that one. Yep. Slower.